Joining us in the Informer studio is the member for Warrandyte, Ryan Smith. You're here to talk to me about this controversial Belt and Road Initiative and a couple of things that we didn't know too much about it. So let's flesh it out.
Well, I think what people have heard is that the Chinese government's trying to get a foothold in many nations across the world in order to exert political and economic
especially
influence.
in the Pacific area.
It's a lot of third world countries and second world countries who need infrastructure money desperately. They're not always
the Philippines, Fiji,
African countries.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different in Victoria's case. In Victoria's case, China is using this relationship as a propaganda tool to point to people to say, we've got a developed nation here, one with an advanced economy. They're part of the program. So it's not all about just trying to take control of these third world countries. We actually have relationships with an advanced economy, a Western...
And they love the idea of the Belt and Road Initiative.
That's right. And it's also being used to drive a wedge between the federal government and the state government. They can bypass the federal government in this way. So they're out there using Victoria as a propaganda tool, and also one to exert pressure on the Australian government, saying that they should be more involved because, look, one of your provinces is also using us. So that's the problem with us. We're not going to be in the sort of debt situation that some of these third world countries are going to be. Debt diplomacy.
Because this was being used a bit differently than the other one, where
that's right.
You come in and we throw the money at you and then let you take over.
Yeah, that's right.
So then expect it to be paid back.
Yeah, that's really right. And what's been disappointing and what should be alarming to people is that Daniel Andrews and the Victorian government has no experience in foreign policy. They have no experience around security concerns that maybe the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade might be much more aware of. And in fairness to the Victorian bureaucracy, they haven't got the expertise to give him the sort of advice that he should be getting if he was at a federal level.
So then why make the decision?
Well, of course...
Why wouldn't you work with the federal government of the day, whatever colour it is, to do something for the betterment of all? And
even, that's a great question, and it even goes one step further. Not only why wouldn't you get the advice, but to actively snub offers from Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, from ASIO, to be given briefings about why this particular issue is a security risk. Daniel Andrews said he didn't want those briefings.
Have we created a society where everything is marked clearly left and right? And if it's not that, it's this, and if it's not this, it's that. I mean, surely we're more mature. We're going through a global pandemic.
Yeah.
And you and I have spoken about this before. I've always been a great believer that in times of real emergency, if you're telling us it's a real emergency, there is no time for politics. I don't care who you are. Yeah. And it's about coming together. You and I have lamented why the Victorian government has not taken the opportunity to make it a unity pact and a unity cabinet just for this emergency, for this year or year and a half, whatever it's running. As you can see now, when we're going to be close to 2 years under a global pandemic. And unless we can get the world vaccinated, and I'm not saying just Australia, the world, it may even go beyond the 2 years.
Yes,
so we can't continue to be good and bad and left and right and this, that and the other. We've got to start working together. So is there any light at the end of the tunnel? That's what I want to know.
Well, in answer to your question, I think we have gone where most things have been classified as left and right. But interesting with this Belt and Road Initiative and the relationship with the Chinese Communist government is that Labor members at a federal level also say they wouldn't have a bar of it. Anthony Albanese has been quite...
Well, Bill Shorten was very quick to say he backed the federal government stance.
Yeah, and in fact the Labor Senator Kimberley Kitchen says that, and she serves on a committee that looks into security affairs, defence affairs for a Senate committee. She said that it was crazy that the Victorian government...
So why is Victoria taking a unicorn stance?
This is an ego-driven position by someone being Daniel Andrews, who wants to be seen as a mover and shaker on the world stage, particularly with China, one of our biggest trading partners. He says it's about increasing jobs in China, but increasing jobs for Victorians, but has been unable to, in any time that he's ever been questioned, to point to one example of where there's been an increase in Victorian jobs. And more than that, the agreement that he signed says that there will be unimpeded trade between the two jurisdictions, China and Victoria. Yet we've seen China take these draconian stances against Victorian companies who are exporting to China: barley, timber, seafood.
You would have thought we'd be exempt.
Correct.
If we could have these
and yet,
special relationships.
And yet barley farmers, Victorian barley farmers, have had an 80% tariff put on their exports.
Well,
so
that's like saying,
where's the benefit?
Well, that's like saying stop.
Where's the benefit for Victoria?
Look, my understanding was that one of the reasons why Daniel Andrews showed such an affinity to support the Chinese government was because of the tremendous inroads that Victoria had made with China and its Asian students.
Yep.
We had seen great numbers of students come down under, and primarily to Victorian universities, and that was building a tremendous energy and also bringing great funds to Victoria.
That's
We
right.
saw it as in the top three sectors in Victoria's build. Education was right up there
It's
as
actually
one of
number
the
one.
big players. Is it number one?
International education.
Okay, I thought it was in the top three.
Biggest export.
Well, there you go. I thought that was the big driver that got us the two parties ever closer together.
Well, it certainly has been. But the fact that every level of government, between state and federal, has said this is a bad deal. The fact that our security advisors are saying it's a bad deal. The fact that Labor politicians in Canberra are saying it's a bad deal. Should have rung alarm bells, should have raised the red flag. Instead, Daniel Andrews went ahead, and it's frankly lucky for all Australians that Scott Morrison stepped in and said this is not in Australia's national security interest and put a stop to it.
Daniel Andrews is currently on the sidelines. He is still recovering from his injuries. What do you expect the community and the marketplace to say when he does come back and assume the office?
Well, Chair, the government was very quiet. The acting Premier, James Merlino, didn't say anything. In fact, the Trade Minister said, oh, well, that's a Canberra decision. They seem to back away very quickly, and they know that it's unpopular. In fact, a poll across 7 contestable seats said that 70% of those people polled said it was a bad deal. So maybe having the federal government step in and stop it has been the thing that they need to actually stop it without losing face, because they've been pretty quiet about it.
Okay, can we say now it's been put to bed and we won't hear again of the controversial Belt and Road Initiative?
I would expect that's the case now that Canberra and our federal government has the power to review these deals, to look at them in through the lens of national security and be able to put a stop to anything. I think that's the end of it.
Okay. Ryan Smith joining us in the Informer studio and giving us a bit of background about the very controversial Belt and Road Initiative that the state government has been saying would be the saviour for the state and put the state in a very good position for the future. Well, as Ryan Smith has now told us, things were not as they were made out to be. Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.